Good morning. This is Coffee with the Summerland Kids. I'm Jericho Wagon. This is Aaron Riggs. It's an early day. It's June 19th, 2024. The weather in Summerland, California right now is partly cloudy, 58 degrees with a high of 74. So another glorious day in Summerland to be chilling out in that beautiful 74-degree temperature.
I know. What is it? The last day of spring coming up here. It's going to be summer soon.
Yeah, it's going to be summer soon, man. It's right here. We're right now, you know.
Nice. I appreciate you being able to jump on a little early this morning. It might become a thing because I got a guy comes every Wednesday, and he likes to start early.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, totally. It's a motivational thing. I just feel, super driven. I got Bill Logan behind me, my grandfather, and I'm just work through his personal office that he left behind. Thankfully, I gotta say thank you to my Aunt Susie, R.I.P. Aunt Susie. She kept, for the most part, together. She gave some to my father, but I brought the collection together again. Essentially, Grandpa's off to go through and come to realization to what he actually had. What did Grandpa have in his collection? That's my goal, to find out what.
Yeah, so, that's there's got to be a lot. I know that I've lost or gotten rid of everything that I own at least twice that I can remember. And it's like, I've only been here for a year, and I've accumulated so much stuff in just one year.
Right. Yeah. And this is like, to me, like, definitely kept his focus on his art and, on his comic book career. That's cool. So he didn't really deviate outside of the, the materials he kept was comic books, what I call Grandpa's Internet, which is basically a two filing cabinets. There's got to be, I'm just guessing, over 10,000 images in there for sure. Possibly 25,000 images. I'm not sure yet, but at some point I'll have a count of how many images references, like image reference file, and then a little library of books, which is cool. And then there was a really cool created, I believe, by Craig Levitt, a fan, a friend in the early days. Because what happened is, like, Katie Keene was more or less 61 or 62, I believe. And after that, he went on to work for organizations in the comic book field, as well as independent P. Anderson, Rusty's, and Sambo's, of course, and made color. And so, it's just like a cool legacy of work, right? And he did keep, I have 3 of his drafting teams. To me, they kind of represent Bill Logan, Elmer Logan, and then the guy whose famous quote is "Life is what happens while you're." That was Alan Saunders' famous quote.
Life is what happens while what?
Oh, life is what happens while you're making other plans.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's such a blessing for him to be able to, be an artist professionally. That was like his full-time job, and that's just such an amazing blessing. I look at you and your art, and I could just imagine how much art you could create or will create if or when you become a professional artist, I guess.
Yeah, and I have had moments with sponsor for a while, and then that really helped me to not worry, be able to just focus on creating and producing for shows, and then on work I got involved in cars when I was like 16 in high school. I wanted to paint my van. So I just took a class at the high school, regional occupation program, auto body and paint. And my teacher, Jim, a cool guy, and got me involved in that. And I just really took to it and embraced them. Especially fell in love with the old stuff and really just solely eventually won cars. And I was able to achieve that and do that and then get retirement from that business to work on a few special projects with my old boss, Joe and Carpinteria. And now Joe.
Awesome. Now, what did you just color them, or you were involved in mixing the paint and prepping and design? Did you do like flames or pinstripes or anything?
A little bit. You know, I basically I really took to the painting of cars like right away. I remember when we would have like DuPont and DuPont. That's the only name I can think of right now, but the paint representatives to the school. And I remember being in this one like classroom with a group of students painting a car together. And so the representative is showing us, you know, the basics of here's how you spray, and it needs to have the gun in their hand and pull the trigger and actually start painting, you know, or whatever we're doing. And I just sort of I was a natural at it. I just took to, and I understood it, and I was super passionate about it when I was like, you know, 1986, I believe, to be a painter. I just wanted, you know, that was like my goal at the time. And so I'm in industry who are really professional, and some of them had and were being a car painter because they had a lot of assistants that helped them prepare the cars for a productive atmosphere, to like look up to your elders, or like that were far ahead of you, but you looked up to them because they were incredible producers. And so I got into it, and I eventually began painting for the company, so to speak. I learned quickly by my, let's say, mid-20s, because I was doing some events once a year. I'd throw a Halloween party, so I'd be able to sort of remote job situation and basically produce my events. And I would take a leave of absence. At first, maybe it was just I made it a month, and then I made it like 2 months of being away from the job to on the party essentially, and complete the task of doing it up, cleaning it up, and then coming back to work. Most of the time, like accomplishment, but also a sense of kind of like, damn it, I gotta go back to, you know. So that was
yeah. I mean, being a painter for cars isn't easy work, but
no.
You know, you're saying you had a passion, you had some pleasure, some enjoyment from it.
Yeah. For sure.
But at the same time, you know, if you were able to do your installations full time, that would almost be like a dream job, I would imagine. And that would be something along the lines of, I'm not really working per se. I'm actually doing what I love and just getting paid for it.
Yeah. And you know, thankfully I did have some along, you know, some family support, a little bit, you know, on the financial ends. I was called upon, given an opportunity to East, and in one case it was for Burt Green Gallery in downtown Los Angeles, where he had storefront windows. It was an old hat shop, I believe, for probably the early 20th century, an art gallery. So it had these incredible storefront windows on a corner, and which essentially is like display windows like in an old-fashioned, like those big glass windows, and they usually have displays in the windows of the merchants and art gallery. What Bert did was gave each artist a one to stay in the window for the whole year. So that was amazing. And whoever did it, who changed the window multiple times. So I did seasons, and I changed the work to be seasonally adjusted per the season. So I did winter, rain, spring. So I went through all the seasons with my work and kept the same visual look, but particularly for the season. So that was a fun experience. And times with installation art, it's a challenge to get paid because it's so obscure and odd. And unless someone actually wants you to their home, and I did have one opportunity to do that in Hollywood, in the work in Hollywood, thankfully. So
Sorry, the cats are being a little rambunctious this morning.
Yeah,
they like
totally.
The one cat likes to play first thing in the morning. He jumps around and he starts chasing the other cat, and the other cat's like, "Hey, I'm not in the mood."
I love those guys. I was like, I love it when they purr and eat at the same time. The purring, it's like the ultimate pleasure. Like, yeah.
Oh, this is so cute because I got these little treats here, right?
Right.
Little kitty treats, and the cat will come up and look at me and stretch his claws up and kind of reach up and touch me, and I'll shake the little bag, and he'll give me the look, and I'll give him a little couple pieces, and it's just amazing. It's so cool because I'll go take a nap or I'll go lay down to go to sleep, and almost every night, one of them will come up and lay on my feet.
That's cool.
Yeah, one or the other one. Yeah, cats are the best.
So, shout out to the people who support art and artists, because not all artists are blessed to be able to be in a kind of a place that, we take ourselves to market occasionally, and to sell. That's a challenge within the art world. Is it's one thing to have the blessed with a talent to produce art, but it's another thing to be producing essentially, or have your work be desired to be collected. That's a whole within the art world is being an artist that's like sought after, collect, represented by galleries and all that stuff. It is a challenge myself to actually represent artists myself, and I was given an opportunity to have galleries. It's a lot of times on short terms, but still this is good. Any amount of time.
So you got to see both sides of the art business: the production, the creating the art, and then the promotion and displaying and actually selling the art.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I was just thinking about this morning. Tom Gilmore was and still is a developer, buildings downtown LA, and I think he might be in Chinatown now. But took over this place at 4th and Main and bought a couple buildings and really cared for the neighborhood. He had a vacancy of a nice space, and he approached a friend of mine, Mueller, said, I can't do it myself, but I have a close friend who can definitely do what you're asking. Gallery be there. So he only charged me like $1 a month, I believe, for rent. Insurance policy for the space while I was there, which is no big deal. It's a few $100. That really enabled me and did a good thing for him too, because I made the space look. When you have a restaurant and an art gallery next to it, it has a good neighborhood, makes the neighborhood look nice, and then after I for like, let's say a couple months, another prospective tenant came in, and that became a place called the Last Bookstore. And he said, hey, and little did I know that he really had a lot more books at home / in storage. Like an old bank building, which was like a it may be, I think it's 2 stories, which I imagine it's probably like, I have to guess, like 20,000 in terms of how much square footage he has. And it's all books, like the whole downstairs, like a huge bank lobby full of books. He has a used record, tons of used books. They buy books. Of course, they send upstairs. That's like one of those giant mezzanine type where it's open. You can see downstairs, and you can see there's more books up there. So he really kind of holds it down. It's called the Last Bookstore, and it's a beautiful. It's one of those places in LA. You got to visit the Last Bookstore. So
it's still there downtown.
Yeah.
All right.
Still there downtown.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is cool. You know, this one sweet lady friend of mine, Gail Zone. Her husband was actually, he did 3D comics. I made some good connections and friends down in LA when I bought some furniture from me that I had made, and I made this large, and Jason actually helped me work on that furniture to build it, and we used a varnish over the top of the furniture. It made some benches and a table. Gail actually at some point donated those that furniture set that she bought to the Last Bookstore guy. So a few pieces of my work is still at the Last Book. So that's cool. You know, it's nice to see your work.
Incredible. Like
yeah,
like when you're talking, you know, art and painting. There's so many aspects. I mean, people say, "Oh, you're a painter." You know, maybe they're thinking you're a house painter or a car painter or like the portrait. Are you a portrait painter? You see these murals, furniture. There's so many different aspects of art, you know, painting, of just taking the brush or the sprayer and laying down the materials. And when you were talking about when you're doing the cars, like the DuPont guy, you know, it's like, I watch some of these car rebuild things, some of these hot rod things, and a lot of time and effort goes into just mixing and choosing the paint, the right color for the right project, or even getting that right color, or adding like the pearl essence, or you see the silver flake or gold flake or sparkle flake inside the paint. And that in itself, you know, requires a certain amount of skill. And like you're saying, when you have passion and love for the project, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm clocking in for the boss. Let me just do my minimum. You're like, no, this is something I'm hip to do this. I want to pour my soul, my heart and soul into this. You know, every part of it, from sanding, the prepping, cleaning it with the tack cloth, because you got to make sure it's perfectly clean. Making sure you're in the right environment, like with a auto paint. You know, you got to have that downdraft booth. Or like you're saying on the art district, you know, just being in that environment around all that artists, that's really important. And that's just all the stuff that goes in behind paint goes on the actual thing. And people are always looking at, the finished project. Even Leonardo da Vinci, I always like to bring up these famous artists. You know, how many layers of paint are on one of his pieces? Quite a few.
No, for sure. And it takes those layers just to sometimes realize, shout out to Yuri Elvin. Yuri will paint something and I'll be like, it looks like going and going and going. So he's getting layers upon layers, and then he's actually sees something like a face or a form, and he'll bring out that form form, it'll come to focus in some way. So it's pretty amazing how Robert Vargas in particular, Robert will sit down and oftentimes on his hands and knees will be in front of him, a person sitting on a chair, but he'll focus on their face, looking up and starting his rendering. It looks Xerox machine. It's like he really lays it down and precisely, and it looks like exactly like the person, which is because it's quite difficult to capture someone's spirit and soul in an image or in a painting or a piece of art. You know, when you're trying to draw, it's like, here's a stick figure. That's a human, but there's a lot more figure representation. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it amazes me. I'll sit down with a pen and paper with some paints or some colored pencils and just, try and make an image. And I just am amazed at how someone can take, looking at someone and capture them. Like the picture of Grandpa back there, I could just look at it and I can see the similarities of features, but it's still unique as him. And to be able to capture that, not only with pencil or pen, but with paints, especially because paints blend and different, you got acrylics, you got oils, you got all these different types of paint, and just the knowledge that goes into it.
For sure. And even when you're cutting corners or commercial art style, when you have projectors or you're tracing or whatever, there's a human element to it. No matter how you lay down your layers, doing it by hand, so it's not really it's difficult essentially in that process. I'm thinking a lot in terms of like creating, of course, with AI, and that's amazing. I mean, and you're able to do it. I mean, I say more power to you if you're able to quickly show what it is you're trying to show. I'm creating little mock-ups or like, little small model almost type stuff to try to, show what I was going to show. At one point I did these, there was a bunch of trees, and the event producer, Dave Dean, which he did this thing called Club Giant, big promoter in Los Angeles. And I always saw his promoting in the Santa Barbara paper, and it was always looked so cool. Even just his promotion, like his advert, so stylish and so cool. And then I got down there, and then I was able to work the level where I was someone that could present my work to Dave, and then said, "Hey, I got these trees that are around. I think you could do something with those trees." Like gaffing tape it was fluorescent, and that glows. Actually went physically up the trees with the tape and created almost like vines, the tree, and then flowers coming down from the tree. So I created these fluffing tape and had a little crew to create hundreds and hundreds of. I basically created almost like a simulation, a visual simulation of these trees, and I blew it up with black light. So at nighttime, they call fluorescent flower trees. So that was crazy.
That is so cool. I mean, just to use your natural environment and, create it, a tree, you see it in the day, you see it in the sun. You don't really think about a tree so much at night. A tree is there for the shade, and then at night to have that visual representation in a black light. Wow. That's just the creativity behind it is amazing. And then the foresight to plan it all out and to get a crew together. And, like you're saying, you had a crew putting together different parts of it so that you could
Yeah.
assemble the whole piece. You know, I guess it's maybe just the way my mind works. You know, I always, you know, people say, oh, this or that, and then I look at it and I see all the different things that go into it, all the different little pieces. That one little piece took a lot of time and effort and thought, almost like you're engineering
Yeah.
the artwork. You're planning, you're strategizing, you're getting the materials together, you're assembling the materials, and then you got to display it. And then, like what you're saying on the marketing side, you not just have to produce it, but you have to present it as far as something that, hey, come and look at what we got going here. Here's just a little glimpse, and you're trying to capture that essence in just that little glimpse of promotion.
Right. Yeah. So I had to give it like concept. I think I did, maybe I did part of it. I basically did a mock-up. I believe I kind of like went at one tree and hit it, and essentially to get approval. And nowadays with the technology of computer-aided design, and people that work graphic design can pretty quickly something to present to someone else to say, hey, here's what it's going to look like. So an aspect of selling the project, he may have conceptualized decorating the trees, but I had to show proof that I could decorate the trees and essentially say, yes, I will pay for that. So that happened. It was like one for my own personal, what do you say, portfolio piece. And that was sort of a one-off. I just did that for one show for him, and where he was at like a career high at the time when I did that for him. It was a major. He was going to do an incredible New Year's Eve show in LA, because he was one of those guys that would take over entire city blocks and do that massive party thing, And but that year was the weather. So I wasn't a part of that show, the wind of the news of the whole thing. And what happened was the fire department said it's going to be on you. If you do this show and something goes, the weather's predicted to be a drastic rainstorm, it's on you, bro. So which is devastating to a promoter to have like all these major acts that he was going to have perform have to be essentially canceled. So that was weird, but that kind of crushed his career. I think he took a step back, and he never I don't think he ever really truly recovered from that. That story. Shout out to Dave Dean, the old, essentially early Ray, who actually I think worked with Pasquale from what's it, Insomniac, it's called.
Wow, that's interesting, because like it really is, because people we're people, and we have our ideas, we have our hopes, we have our plans, and sometimes they don't always go the way we had hoped or the way we had figured it out, and that can be devastating. You see all these Hollywood actors, they make it and they're big time and everyone's watching them, and they make one little misstep and it blows up in the news, and next thing you know, you haven't seen them in a movie for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really blows me away how just, a little thing like the change of the weather can really affect something so drastically.
Yeah.
It's not just major forest fires or tsunamis or ice storms. Yeah, exactly. It could be just a rainstorm that washed away. I keep getting this picture of sidewalk paints, right? The sidewalk chalk. Someone spends all this time to create this beautiful image on the sidewalk with chalk, and the first rain is gone.
It's like it's a temporary thing. It's like a temporary one night show that you're, especially New Year's Eve is kind of a time of which there can be weather. I mean, January 1st, that's for California, that's winter, you know, so you're just praying that it's going to be a perfect night for everyone to dress up and not. So, and the funny thing is, it actually didn't end up happening. What they predicted didn't happen. So he had canceled it, and it was like, oh, so other smaller events. One of my friends had a party that night, and they produced a show, and by default, they had a winner because is another person's gain sometimes in that case, you know. For challenging, man. You know, life has its
super challenging
twists and turns, man. Yeah.
Such little things.
Well,
like I was so worried.
What's that?
Hey, thank you so much for coming early. I was going to say,
Absolutely.
I was so worried that this
man.
morning I had 3 different things all planned at 7 o'clock. And I'm like, oh man, how am I going to get to the store, meet up with my helper, and do the show with Jericho? But you were right on time.
Cheers,
and I appreciate you being
Have
early.
A great day. I'll send you the info right
Awesome.
now. Appreciate you.
Click the button.